G'day folks. Well, in this video I'm going to show you how I solve the crazy or the circle doderhombus with all zero faces. So this, I guess, would be called the circle doderhombus as opposed to the crazy doderhombus. All faces are zero faces, so those center parts stay fixed when we turn the face. This is a bit of an interesting puzzle. It's not quite as tricky as the standard doderhombus and certainly not as some of the crazy variants where the faces get changed to one faces or other things. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just very quickly show you how to scramble. Scrambling begins with 180-degree turns, and it's a little bit subjective, but when you're happy with that sort of thing, the only other thing you can really do is a little bit of jumbling with not much shape shifting, because we can't, like on the standard doderhombus, what we would do is do some swaps of pieces. But on here, if we try to do that, we can get to a certain point, we can get to here, and we try and turn these around to sort of split some edges or something, and you can see clearly, even though it lines up, we are unable to turn because this circle on the top face is broken by the corners sitting here, so that face will not turn. So that's a no-go. We can't do any splitting of those edges like that, and in fact you'll find the only thing you can really do is do some jumbling like this. So to get it shape shifted. Probably before we do that sort of jumbling, what you would do is do the sort where you do not shape shift it. So I bring those two onto there. I can certainly jumble those pieces in that fashion, and that's what I'll do for a while. Now, as you're doing this, you can mix that in with some ordinary 180-degree turns so that you get the benefit of as much scrambling as is possible on this puzzle, and then do a little bit more jumbling. Eventually you'll get to a point where you sort of think, well, I'm not sure that I can do much else. I probably would do something here because I've got, clearly that's not quite scrambled as best I'd like it, so I would maybe turn that initially so that I can get those bits undone, and then possibly do some jumbling on part of those bits. But you'll find that you're always going to end up with, I think, some sort of situation like that. Perhaps I'll jumble this bit down here initially, and that may make it a little bit easier to get as many bits as possible dealt with. You will notice that there's no way to separate these two pieces inside the circle on this all zero face circle puzzle. There's also no way to separate the split edges, as I talked about earlier. So that is classed as essentially one piece, and I've got this dark purple single piece essentially here and a pink single piece. Even though they're made up of two bits, I can't separate them, so that's what I'm dealing with. So when you're happy enough with that, just do it as much as you want, as little as you want. You are ready to start jumbling with a little bit of shape shifting. As I alluded to earlier, there's not a whole lot you can do. So I can certainly do that and perhaps move this across to here and maybe try something. I mean, if I do this, I'm basically not changing anything. I'm just changing what is sticking out. So perhaps then I might bring this one down here. That's really not going to change much either. Let's try this. No, not a whole lot. So essentially you've got to think, well, I've got those two there. I'll try and make another two somewhere else, which is not always as easy as it should seem. I can't turn that because that is sitting in the way. I'm now not going to be able to turn that face because that corner is blocking it. Let's see if I can get at least one more done. Not that there's a heap of point doing it, because you're going to find that the first stage is getting it back to cube shape, and it's just simple to get it back by undoing these moves. You'll find that at most, you might get another couple done if you can position these right. I'm going to stop there because as far as the jumbling and shape-shifting of this puzzle, that's pretty much all you're going to end up doing. What I could potentially try is to jumble one of these onto another orbit to get it into this position. Maybe that's a decent idea. Let's try that. We'll go there. Let's see if this works. Okay, so I have got that yes, I've now got two pieces there which are in the same orbit, and I can at least put them there and work with something over here without the blockages that I just had. I guess I correct myself and say that's possibly the only other thing that I can do. Whether I can now bring that to there. Now, of course, you can start turning faces so that they're not aligned properly. I can't do that, obviously, because that's there, but I mean something like that, or potentially something like that, but it's not going to afford you much there. So I would say that's as scrambled as it's going to get. We now move on to beginning the solve, and the first thing is a pretty quick stage, which is returning to cube shape. You've seen what we've done to get it scrambled, so the first thing is just to find a couple that can jumble into place, and they just need to be like these two, where I turn one of them up to here and it's pointing in the same direction as the other one on the same face, because when I turn the face 180 degrees and bring that back, that will solve them. Now here we don't have that. These are already on the same face, so that means I need to get one of them jumbled onto a different orbit. So for example, I might initially just bring this over here so I can leave that alone and get it onto a different orbit in this region. Hopefully this won't be too tricky, because I'm always thinking about this being blocking things for me as well. I can't turn this face. If I actually turn that there initially, I might have a little bit more room to play with. Let's try. I think that might have got a different piece that has, and that's what you need to do. Just jumble it away from the other one onto a different orbit, and now I've got this piece here which moves onto the same face, pointing in the same direction. I can now turn the face 180 degrees, bring that back, and we're back to cube shape. So fairly straightforward, nothing like the returning to cube shape of the standard Doderhombus. So the next thing that I want to do is to solve these circle edges. And remember that the two yellow pieces there are classed as one piece. There's nowhere they can go on this puzzle. So the worst you've got to do is just start turning everything until it all lands in place. So I could just focus on one circle. The green's done. What's going on here? The white's not done. So I'll turn that. I'll turn that. I've got this purple that needs that to be turned. That's probably, is it everything? Not quite. Got these here. I reckon the last one now. And we'll see that all the circle edges are placed. The circle corners are not. They will happen automatically later on. But the circle edges are placed. The next thing we want to do is to solve the outer edges. And again, these are treated as one piece, but I still need to solve them. So what I would do is just look to solve an orbit at a time. For example, this yellow-orange is in place, and if I follow where it can go without jumbling, it can move along here, along that line there, and eventually it comes back to here. If I needed it over here, I would have to jumble it somehow. So that's in its correct orbit. So what I tend to do is just say, well, there's a yellow-blue. Is that in the orbit already? No, it's not. So it's in a different orbit somewhere. There's the piece I want. It's got to land in this orbit. It doesn't have to land there. It just has to land somewhere in this orbit. So I would have a look at where this is and say, is there a decent way that I can get this piece into this orbit? Now what I notice is that the orbit that I want it in is this, where this blue-orange piece lives. So if I turn that piece up to here, and I turn my yellow-blue down onto the same face, and then jumble, I'll return those. We have not shape-shifted. We've just kept them where they should be. And what I'll find now is that yellow-blue can now, I don't need to do this, by the way. I don't need to solve it straight away. I really just need to get it into its orbit. That will now place into its correct position. Now you'll notice that the circle edges have come out, and that's why I'll put it back where it was so that the circle edges are all back. When you have, this is a result of the jumbling, so I can turn that back as well. when you're doing this, you're going to find, right, that's in the orbit that it belongs in. Must be there, I think. That's in the orbit that it belongs in. If I want to turn it to a new position, what I'd need to do here is just say set it up to there and place it over here using a 3 cycle. So I'll show that now. It's very, very simple. Turn it into place, get another piece as my third piece, undo, undo. So that's done. I'll undo this setup move and you'll notice now that's still there, that's in place, but all the circle edges are also in place. I would look at blue-red and say, is it in the orbit it needs to be in? No, it's not. So I locate the piece, it's up here. I say I need to do something to get it into the same orbit or the orbit that it belongs in. So for example, this is the orbit it belongs in. I can tell that because it's straight across from there. So I could turn this up onto the pink face, turn the blue-red down into position, and that's now in the correct orbit. And of course, these circle edges have come out because every time I do this, I'm doing essentially a swap, and so I'm turning that face one turn. So I just want to probably turn that back to do it. No need to place this now. I would probably go and say the next one is red-yellow. That is not in the orbit, so it's somewhere else there. So let's say if I can bring it down to here, then I can grab this one and move it up to here. And what I haven't talked of so far is just checking that the piece that you're going to swap it with is not already in its orbit. So I can get the red-yellow to there, the yellow-green to here. I just want to make sure the yellow-green doesn't live in this orbit, but it doesn't. It lives in that one. So that's fine to use as a piece to swap. Just got to make sure that's properly aligned. And again, I would probably every time just turn that face back again. So where are we? Blue-red's in, red-yellow's in. The pale yellow-blue, you can see belongs here, so that's in. The blue-orange, I don't think is in. And I think the purple-white is the one that does not belong there. So that now means I've got to get the purple-white out and the blue-orange piece in. So there's the purple-white, the blue-orange is here. How can I get this down to the correct orbit? Well, I can move it down to this sort of region here. So bring that down to the green face, bring the purple-white down. And then fix up those circle edges. Now what I should find, I think I've got all the pieces into their correct orbit for this first orbit, I should say. So that's done, that's done. The next one is the blue-red. So I'd go and place it over here using a 3 cycle. So 1, 2, 3 to get this over to that position. The next one is the red-yellow. That's over here. So I will cycle that over. And again, notice that as I'm cycling this, I'm not disrupting any circle edges that I've already done. Okay, now you'll notice the last 2 happen to be swapped in this particular orbit. This is not a cause for concern yet. There is a really interesting case that happens when you're at the end of it that can happen, and I'll make sure we cover that, even if it doesn't naturally appear. But for now, if I've finished an orbit and I've got 2 pieces to swap, I just leave them there, I forget about them, and I go on to the next orbit. So I won't take you through all the rest. I'll skip through and come to the last little bit. But the next orbit, I'll just start with any one I want. I could, for example, start with this one and say, well, the blue-grey's in. I need the grey-green. Let's do one piece. That's already in. I'll ignore that. Green-blue. That's in. Blue-white. That's not in. So I've got to get a blue-white in here. What needs to come out? Not that one. That blue-green was okay. Is it the orange-purple? I think it's the orange-purple. So I've got to get the orange-purple out and the blue-white in. And that'll actually put all the pieces that are in that orbit. Where is the blue-white? Here. And the orange-purple, I'll just get my finger on it, it's over here. So the blue-white, yep, we can use the yellow face here. So I would bring the blue-white up to that position. Put the, was it the purple-orange? I think it was the purple-orange that had to come out. I hope it was. Do the swap, undo those turns, reset the circle edges. Now, which orbit was it that I had just been talking about? I think it was this one. So apparently now I've got all the pieces in here. Let's continue. Grey-green. Okay, so we'll bring that around. I said I wasn't going to do another orbit, but clearly I've lied. Got a green-blue. Is that in? I thought that was in. Maybe it's not. Oh yeah, it is. It's over there. So it's way over here. What I would do is either do a setup or just get this one in first, which is that green-blue there. So I'll cycle that across. That one's in, the green-white's in. And you'll see once again, I've got this swap of pieces. Now, what you could do, if you wanted to, and this is not a bad idea either, is to deal with this. Actually, no, you can't deal with the swap. I was going to say get the two pieces from this orbit that need swapping over here. And I was going to say then you could turn this face, but you can't because it will knock out the circle edges. So it is quite an interesting thing. I'm going to continue now and cut back in with the last few. Okay, I'm on my third orbit, and once I've done the third one, the fourth one will be done automatically. So I've got here, I think the pink-green clearly needs to go into that orbit. So I've got to find the other piece that doesn't belong in there because I reckon the rest are done. That pink-red, yeah, that pink-red does not belong there. So is the pink-green, yes, the pink-green is in the pink-red orbit. So those are the two that need to swap. So firstly, let's see if I can do that on this orbit over here. Now that should, as far as I can tell, let's put the circle edges back. I think that should get all the pieces into their correct orbits. So what I'll do initially is just go back and see if I can get the two previous orbits dealt with. I think the blue-white orbit was one of them. So looking along here, well, I can, let's solve that one there. And now go for the green-blue. Can I do that? I should be able to get that one done. All right, so that orbit is completed. I think the white-red potentially was another one. Or was it? Maybe it was the blue-red. Maybe it was the blue-red. I think it was the blue-red. And that's got those two swaps. So I'll leave them there for now. It may fall out and solve itself by the end, or it may not. So let's have a look at this orbit here. This was one of the new ones. So I will solve, let's try and solve this yellow. In fact, let's go around this way and we'll get the green-pink done. That's over here, so I'll just set it up to there and then cycle it. That's in, undo that setup. That one's in. I've got, looks like 3 will cycle here. All right, that orbit's done. Let's have a look at what's left. Those two need to swap in that orbit. And here's another one. This is the other one that's not quite done. So we'll see if we can get the, not really clear which is a sensible way to go here. So probably I've got the orange blue. So look, I'll go this way and try and get the orange grey, which is over here. So that's in. The next one is the grey pink, which is sitting over here. So I'll set that up and then cycle it home. Pink, red, that's the next one. Okay, now it looks as though, yeah, we've got a swap here as well, we also had this swap there. Now, what I'm going to do, so I've got a swap on this orbit and a swap on this orbit, but the other two orbits are completely done. So there's one looking around here, and the other one was, I think, this purple-yellow orbit. That's all done as well. So I've got two swaps. This is what I find quite fascinating about this. In most other puzzles, you have two sets of swaps. It's good. But on this one, it's not. And I want to put them on the same face just to demonstrate a little bit clearer why it's not. So I'm going to put them all on this red face. So I'll solve this blue-yellow. So this is not essential to do in order to fix this, but I'm hoping it'll show it a little bit clearer what's going on. So I also want those two to not be done, so I'm going to solve that white purple. So now we've got a single face, and you can see that all of the circle parts, or the circle edges I should say, are completely done. We've got this single face where 4 are not done. And we cannot just do that. If we do that, it solves the outer edges, but it does not solve the circle edges. It puts them out. So that's a no-go. What we do need to end up doing is basically swapping two of the edges somewhere. So I'm going to look to swap the white-red and the pink-red outer edges. The way I'm going to do that is the following. I'm going to move this up to here and jumble it with this blue-green piece first of all. So I'm going to get the white-red up to here. So it's standard jumbling move here. And don't worry about the circle edges, they're all going to come back at the end. So what I have now is the white-red here and this pink-red here. And remember, those are the two pieces that I need to swap. So I now use a different orbit, this one here. So I'm going to turn the white-red to there and the pink-red to there. This is the key move because now I'm swapping those two pieces. I'll put those back. You can see that white-red has landed in its correct place there. The blue-green belongs back here. The pink-red belongs here. So I now need to swap those two pieces by using the original orbit that I had. So I'll do that. Now before I do anything else, I've got to say I need to get the circle edges back so I can clearly see that's got to be turned in that fashion. Now, as you can see, those two are correct, and you'll notice in this orbit there are 1, 2, 3 pieces remaining, and that is a really simple 3 cycle. So I cycle those 3 outer edges home, and that completes that section of the solve. So that's not always going to happen. Sometimes those edges will just cycle home correctly, but if you do get that situation where you've got 2 swaps, that is what you need to do. Well, the next stage of this solve is to deal with these 4 coloured corners, and it's a pretty simple stage. There are, let me get this right, 6 of them I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6. So there's not heaps of them. What we want to do is just find one of them that rolls along a face, if we can. It's not guaranteed that we will, but I initially just have a look and see, is there one that will work like that? I don't reckon there is in this case. And that's okay, it's not the end of the world. What I'm going to be doing is cycling something like this to here, and this one to here. And when we do it, we'll turn this face, and you'll see that the only intersection is obviously the 4 coloured corners, but also a couple of triangles. So that's why we're doing this before we do the triangles, because it does deal with triangles as well. Let's aim to get this corner over to that position. You can see that, oh, that's the wrong position anyway. In fact, this one is in position but twisted, so that's probably a bad one to look at. Let's try this one here, green, white, red, yellow. Yeah, that's got to go there. So this has to cycle over to there, but if I just cycled it now, you can see that it's oriented wrongly. That green should be on that face. So before I start this, because the actual sequence is really simple, before I start this, I want to rotate the corner so that the green colour is on the green face. So in other words, I want to rotate this corner clockwise. Now, to rotate this corner clockwise, I want to move it, somewhat ironically, anti-clockwise about this three-coloured corner here. So if I'm moving about this corner, I could either go down this way and then this way and here, or I could go this way and then across here and then up here. So that way is anti-clockwise about that three-coloured corner. And so because I need to rotate it clockwise, that's the direction I've got to go. So it's not the direction of the actual turn of the face, it's about that corner. You can see when I do that, that green colour is now on the green face, which is what I need. So to not complicate things, let's just carry out the sequence now, get that corner placed into that position. Here it is. All done. Very clearly, that has now been placed. Now, because I have had to rotate this corner, I need to undo that rotation. So I undo the moves that I did, which means I'm coming back down this direction. You can normally see that it's correct if you forget, because these things will come back. So let's say that I thought I had to go this direction. I can see, no, that's not right. And that will always help me make sure that I do the undoing moves correctly. Right, so I've got one corner in. I will just look to find some other corner now. Let's see if we can find a sensible one. That's not purple, yellow, that's in position. What about this one? That's in position. This one here, is that a... That looks like it's right over the other side. Or is it? Nope, that's a good one to do to get to there. So once again, we'll look at this here. This is a little bit of a tricky one because the pink needs to go over there. So I've got to rotate it twice, if you like, to get the pink sticker onto this pink face before I cycle it. Now, I want to check that obviously is not correctly placed, which is good. This one is in position, but it's rotated. So I'm quite happy for this to be involved in the cycle because I'd like to pull that out of that position because it makes it easier to get it in later. So I'm going to rotate this corner around. Because it's twice, it doesn't matter if I do it clockwise or anti-clockwise. So perhaps this time I'll do clockwise about this corner. There's one rotation and I'll do it again. And you can see the pink has landed on that pink face. So now I'm ready to carry out the cycle. And that's been solved. I went clockwise, so let's undo those moves, and I'll have to do them twice. So this is a little bit strange because it is correct, but it doesn't look correct yet. But now that does look good. All right, everything's back to where it should be. So that's two corners that we've got done. Initially, I'm aiming to get a third one done, which will just leave me a 3-cycle of some kind. That's in position, so I wouldn't mind involving that. All right, this one here is a good one. That's going to go to that position, the purple, blue, yellow, white. Now that's already done, so I just need to put here another corner that's not yet done, and that one there looks good. Although, having said that, that is completely perfectly set up for that corner there. So I reckon I might abandon the other one and do this one. No need to rotate that one. So that's going to go across to there. This corner is going to go across to there. These are not yet done. The only issue I have is that this is going to go into that position, but wrongly oriented. So I am going to move a different corner into that position just to avoid having all three corners in position, but twisted. So this is the one that I'm now trying to do. All done. Bring that setup move back. What I should have now is 3 corners done. 1, 2, 3. And the other 3 corners will still need to be done. So that'll be our last 3 cycle to get those finished. Here they are. I noticed that this yellow sticker is correctly positioned, so that's going to go across to there. Now to make the last 2 go into place as well, I now need to look at this second corner. And I note that it does have to go to that position, but it's got a pink sticker. And so that pink sticker is going to land there. The pink sticker really belongs here on this face. So I need to rotate this corner first so that that white sticker, which belongs on the pink face, is sitting here. If I do that, it will mean all three corners will place with my final 3 cycle. So this time I've got to rotate this corner so the white sticker goes to there. I've got to rotate it clockwise. So that means I've got to move anti-clockwise about this 3-coloured corner. So I'm coming down that way. All right, and you'll see that white sticker is now on this face ready to receive that corner there. So we've now got the final 3 cycle. And you can see that one is placed. That one has almost magically placed correctly. So once I rotate this around, undo those setup moves, that will also place. I have to undo it by going this way. And there we go. All of those 4-coloured corners have now been solved. Now, if you do find that you end up with a single twisted corner, it's not some kind of parity or big issue with this cube. What it means is that somehow you've accidentally just twisted this. I find it impossible to do it, but I have seen reports of some people being able to do this, but I would have thought you'd notice it if you did it, but apparently it does happen. So that's nothing really to worry about there. Now the next stage of the solve is to do the triangles. I'm going to give you 2 sequences for the triangles. One is an impure sequence, so it also moves around these corners. The other is a pure sequence, so you can use whichever one you like. I tend to use the impure because I just find it easier to deal with and it's less moves. But I'll show you both of them. Let's have a look now on a solved puzzle. So we're going to look at 2 sequences here to move around triangles. The first sequence, first thing about it is I want to hold it so that if you like, this 4-coloured corner is right in the center of things and we've got diagonal cuts. If I hold it like that, we've got a vertical and a horizontal cut. So I need to hold it so the cuts are diagonal. And what I'm going to do is essentially a corner piece series. If I did that on a cube, I'd be turning the upper face and then the right face and then the upper face and the left face. Because I don't want to jumble this, I've got all 180-degree turns. I would then turn the upper face, return the right face, the upper face, and return the left face. Well, that's the whole sequence. You can see firstly that that one is impure, so it's moved around these corners as well. So if you use this one, you have to do it before those 3 color corners. But it's only shifted 3 of these triangles. There's obviously one of them. There's another, and there's the third. If we look at the piece movement, we can see that that was a light blue one, which has come to here, and this white one has gone to there. So the piece movement is there, to the front, to there. And it's the reason I like it is because it's very simple to see what's happening. It's that turn, essentially, is moving, and then that turn. So it's very simple to track where the pieces are going and how they land there. Now, if you needed to do the reverse of this, so instead of moving the pieces in this direction, if you wanted to move the pieces in the opposite direction, you undo those moves. What I like about this is that here's the undoing of those moves. Left, up, right, up. Now you don't remember this, but what you're really doing is going dun, 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 essentially. And it's just a nice little sequence. So that will move the pieces in the opposite direction. Now the second sequence I'll show you for triangles is a pure sequence. So it does not shift around these 3 colored corners. It's similar, it's a little bit longer, but it's made up of similar faces and we hold the puzzle in the same orientation. Here's what we do. We turn a left face and then a right face and then a left face and a right face. So that part is essentially an edge piece series, just the interaction of 2 faces. Then I'm going to turn this upper face, front face, upper face. And what that does is move a triangle that was here out of the way and put another one up to there. That's all that's doing. Now I undo. So I undo my edge piece series, right, left, right, left, and then I undo the up, front, up, which is up, front, up. And you can see that, yes, that is pure. And what's happened? I've got something going on here, nothing over here, something here. Well, because we turned this front face to bring another corner, it's clear that what's happened is this is the other, the other corner, the other triangle. This is the other triangle that's involved. So the white triangle that started here has moved down to there. The white triangle that was here has gone across to there, and this pink one has come up to here. So this is also a pretty nice sequence. As I said, it's a bit longer, but because it's pure, it means you can do the corners first and use this at the end if that's what you would like to do. All right, well, this is not a bad one to begin with. I've got this dark blue piece here, which belongs in this face somewhere. When you've got a piece that's kind of on either side, it means it can very easily go to this or this face, which is where we need it. So if I turn that dark blue piece around to that orange face, I can then happily put it into the correct position, which is set up to come here. So I've now got the dark blue, which is going to place there. I would then try and do two if I could. So I'd look at this pale yellow and say, can that go to a pale yellow position? Well, that's next to this face, so there's no easy way to get that there. So I'll abandon that. I then say, well, this looks like it's an orange face, except I've got to remember. So initially I was thinking, oh, that's good, there's an orange piece there. But I must remember that I'm not convinced this is an orange face because I had some setups. So if I undo some setups, let's have a look where that actually goes to. And it's come back from the white face. So even though it appears that I've got an orange piece here, which is going to go to the orange face, it's not. It's actually going to go to the white face. So I can cycle that orange around. There's no problem with doing that, but it will not place correctly. So what I'll do here is just aim to get that blue piece in here. Often at the beginning, I'm happy just getting one piece done at a time. So we'll carry out the sequence. We've got the pieces set up. Just the same as a corner piece series, essentially we're doing the upper face turn, then a right face turn, the upper face turn, and the left face turn. And then because it's 180 degrees, we're just repeating that. Sequence complete. Let's undo setup moves. There's that orange piece that is now going to come back to the white face. But you'll see that blue piece, which we wanted to place, is now in. Pretty straightforward. Let's have a look here. We've got, this is another good example in terms of, I can see there's a yellow piece here, which needs to go there. Now, if I go and set that yellow piece up around to this face and put it in position, you can tell that it's going the wrong direction because what normally happens is the pieces go from here to here to here. What if I want to go backwards? Well, I'm going to do a backwards one here, and you'll see it's a really nice sequence. So yellow is going to go to here. I've then got a dark green. That looks fantastic because that dark green will place in there. So I'm going to get two done on this go around. But because the piece movement is the opposite direction, I need to reverse the moves that I did. So to reverse the moves that I did, so normally it was the upper right, upper left, upper right, upper left. To reverse that, here's what I do. Left, up, right, up, left, up, right, up. So it's very, very simple. It's just going like that. And you can see the yellow position or the yellow piece has placed where I wanted it. So has that green piece. And if I just undo the two setups that I had, there we go. You know, it's possible that that purple one might have placed as well. Maybe I got three done there. So that's the technique for doing this. Let's look for a situation where we can do the other sequence, the pure sequence. That lends itself well when you've got potentially a piece, and this is why I don't tend to use this sequence often, because what I'm doing is on a single face, I've got to move a piece from here to here or here to here. So if that's the case, the only time I'd really want to do that is to potentially move, say, this green piece to here and put the other green piece into that position. So I'll have a quick look and see if it's easy enough to get that. I don't know where that green piece is. It's over there. I don't think it's on a good face for that, so no point in doing that. Let's see what else we can manage to find here. That one is going to go to there. No, that's going to be no good. And this is sometimes you just spend a few minutes just searching for the right sort of scenario. Now that one there, no. Abandon that. In actual fact, let's do this one. So I found something here. So what we're going to do is move the dark blue down to here. This light blue will go to that position and place, and this light green will come to there. So we know that's the piece movement for this second sequence. So here's what we do to achieve this. Left, right, left, right. So basically an edge piece series there. We're going to move the upper face. We're going to turn the upper face, the front face, and the upper face. And we're going to undo. So right, left, right, left, and undo these moves. Now the only thing that we were attempting to place there was that light blue piece that was sitting here around to there, and that's what's been achieved. So there's an example of that one. That's what you need to do. Now it's probably the longest stage of the solve because there's just a lot of them to do. 24, I think, if my mathematics is correct there, and often there'll be some done, but it still takes a fair while. So I'm going to continue to do them and cut back in when I'm down to the last 3 or so. And here I am with the last 3 of these triangles to do. You can see the yellow has got to go there, the white has got to go up here, and the grey has got to come back to here. I have a feeling this is a very tricky sort of scenario to deal with, and what I often will do, instead of trying to get the last 3 done in one hit, I'll just do 2 at a time. In other words, place one of them to leave 2 remaining, then use a similar colour to deal with them. So we'll see how that goes here. Probably what I would initially do is just start with one of them and say, okay, that's the grey. Can I get the white piece where I need it? That's the first thing to check. Now, I know it's got to be on the blue face, and if I turn that white piece like that, that has seemingly magically turned into that position. This might be easier than I thought. So I don't need to remember that setup move, but I've got the white now correctly set up to go here. My next challenge is, can I get the dark yellow piece to be over here? I don't think that'll be quite as simple because it's sitting here. It's certainly not on the dark yellow face. I don't think there's a super obvious way to get it there. So this is what I would do here is say, good, I've got the white there. I'm going to cycle this white piece to that white piece to this grey piece, because that will get the whites dealt with, and I'll then be left with 2 pieces only. So how do I get these 2 pieces to where they need to be? Well, I will turn this grey around to the other face, and then turn this white face to bring that white piece up into position. So I just need to remember for setups, what have I done? I turned the red face, then the white face. And I've now got the white piece that's going to go to here. This white piece will go to there and place, and the grey will come over here. So after the setups, I'm ready to carry out the sequence. That's all done. I remember that I did red, then white, so that's how I've got to undo them. White, then red. I think there was another move here. You can see the whites have been done. I should now have only 2 pieces remaining, the grey and the yellow, that look like they've got a swap. This may be trickier. So I would again just start with one here. This is not a bad option for when you're trying to do the pure sequence. If I wanted to go here to that sort of region, if it works, great. We'll have to wait and see. Don't think that's easily going to go where I need it. Let's go back here and see what I can do. That is going to move to that blue face, so that's not really any good. And the other thing that I could try, this may work. All right, so I'm going to move the grey down to here and then to the red face, because that's now in position for where I need it. So in terms of the setup moves that I've done here and that I don't really want to forget, I'll stand here, that's my piece on my sort of front face. So I've got to keep my bearings there. So I turned the yellow face. I'm not going to remember that. I don't need to. I will remember dark blue. So that's my first setup turn that I'm going to remember is dark blue face. That puts a grey piece over there. Now what I'd like is for grey to go to yellow. So again, I need to get this yellow over here and then move the grey up there. So dark blue, light blue, grey. That's the three setups I've got to undo. Dark blue, light blue, grey. Now those three pieces are set up exactly where they need to be. All done. Don't be tempted to skip the last move of something because of the setups. So it was dark blue, light blue, grey. So let's undo in that order. There's the grey, there's the light blue, here's the dark blue, and I didn't remember this one, so I'll put that one back. All being well, I should find that every single triangle is now complete. The only thing remaining are these three coloured corners. So with these three coloured corners, what I'm doing is something similar to the four coloured corners. You remember that I was looking to go across like this, and I was hoping that there'd be a corner with the correct colour on the face. Well, this time, what I'm going to do is go across this part of the face, the shorter part of the face, so that's the longer part, going across the shorter part and then down to there. That's the three pieces I'm going to cycle. Now you'll see in a few seconds why I absolutely love this sequence. Let's find one first. Here's a great one. We notice the white, purple, green corner belongs over here. So in other words, if I turn it like that, that has been placed. So that's my first piece, correctly positioned and oriented, going to there. For the first one, I might even just do these three pieces to show the sequence. What I will do just before I do that is show I solved puzzle. Well, we're going to have a look here at how we can move around the three coloured corners. The really nice thing about this is we hold the puzzle the same way that we hold it for the triangle sequence. And the first triangle sequence that I showed you initially, which was an impure sequence, you remember that it moved triangles, it also moved these three coloured corners. So what I'm going to do now is that exact same triangle sequence to begin with. That's done. And now I'm going to almost repeat it. But what I'm doing, instead of turning the upper face then the right face, I'm going to do the upper face then the left face. So essentially I'm going to do a corner piece series, but the opposite one. So upper face, left face, upper face, right face, and then repeat that. Now what's happened there is that the triangles have all come back. There's no triangles that are out of position, and 1, 2, 3 corners have been moved. Very clearly this yellow, red, pink has come from here, and the yellow sticker has gone straight across. So that's essentially turned that corner, rotated it around to there. This one, the same thing has happened. That green used to be here, it's simply turned it around like that. The last one, you'll notice there's a purple sticker on top. If I look here, I had the purple sticker on the side. And so again, just like the corner piece series, that's what this does. Whatever sticker is on the side face here will land on the top up here. So that is how we can cycle 3 of these 3 coloured corners. So now that we've seen that, we know that that's going to go across to there. That is going to come down to this position. So I've got a choice. I could say, well, this is green, yellow, blue, which belongs there. If I could get that position to here so that it orients correctly, I might as well. So once again, I look at this and I say, well, that is the light blue sticker, which belongs here. So I need to get the dark blue sticker onto the purple face here if it's going to correctly orient this piece. Now, I wouldn't spend too much time on this. I would just do a couple of turns and say, is the dark blue sticker there? No, it hasn't happened. So for now, I would ignore that and not worry about it and just place this piece here initially. So there's 8 of these things to do. You try and do 2 at a time, but if it doesn't work easily, don't worry about it. Here we go. The reason that I love this sequence, as you've just seen, is it is simply a repeat, essentially, of the triangle sequence with very minor variations. So we firstly do the triangle sequence. That's now done. And now we're going to do the opposite. So instead of that corner piece series with a right turn first, we now do a corner piece series, if you like, with a left turn first. And that will, of course, put all the triangles back, but it's also moved that exactly into position. So that's the sort of thing that we're looking for there. I would now go and look for another one. Here's a good one. This pink, green, grey is correctly positioned to go to here. There's the third corner. Now this is very interesting because this one's going to place nicely there. This third corner comes across the diagonal like this. And just like the corner piece series on a cube, the sticker colour on the side goes to the top. So I note here that that pink sticker colour is going to come up there, which means that corner is going to correctly place. So I'm going to leave that there, no setup moves required, and get this one placed and this one placed. So both those pink face corners will be done. The first part of it, and now we do the second part. All done, and as you can see, both of those corners have now been done. All right, looking around for another one. There may be none that are perfectly where they need to be, so the next thing that I would do is say, is there one that needs to go across the face but is wrongly oriented? And so, for example, this one here, this yellow, purple, orange belongs over there, but at the moment, the orange will land here. What I need is to have that yellow sticker on the yellow face before I start. So to do that, I've got to rotate this corner anti-clockwise. Now, if I want to rotate that corner anti-clockwise, I need to move it in an anti-clockwise direction about this corner. So clearly I could go this way, or I could come this way. So this way will be anti-clockwise around that corner. So that's what I do. And you can see that being done, that yellow sticker is on the yellow face. So that's now set up, ready to go across to there. This will come down to here. This one will come across to the top. Now, this one looks as though it's going to place into that position. However, I don't think it will, because even though the yellow sticker goes to the yellow face, I have to rotate this back. So I don't think that's going to work. I'm going to leave it there at the moment to show you something at the end. So here we go, let's carry out the sequence. Now the second part. Good, that yellow one's in position. Now I've got to undo these. You remember that I went anti-clockwise about this corner, so I've got to go now clockwise to put everything back, and you'll see, yep, that's looking good. There we go. And as predicted, that has not actually landed where I need it to be. That's fine, because what I'm going to do is leave two in position at the end, if I can, to show you a corner orienting sequence, which I also like. So what have I got left? I've got the red, blue, white belonging here, the orange, blue, whatever, what was that? Grey goes to here, green. So I reckon I'm down to a final 3 cycle here of these 3 pieces. I do have that twisted, so I'll keep that in mind, but let's have a look. That one has got to go across to there. So again, I'm going to have to rotate this anti-clockwise first. This is my 3rd corner. So for now, if I just put that down into position before I start, that's where it belongs. You can see at the moment that blue sticker will come across and place nicely here. Having said that, I think that's the only one that's going to place, because this one will not, and this one, in fact, if I don't do any setups here, yeah, I think that's the issue. This one will place correctly, but this one would not, and this one would not. I'd have 3 corners twisted. Maybe that's not a hugely bad thing. However, I think I'd prefer to try and get 2 of these 3 done correctly. So maybe I'll attempt to make that happen. So the first thing is I'm going to rotate this one anti-clockwise. So let's bring it around. So that one is now in position. That goes across to there. This second corner, the white, is going to go to here. So I've got to place that white sticker into the white face. So here's my 3rd corner. It's the grey that's got to land here if I'm going to have that placed correctly. So I'm going to attempt to do that. Maybe tricky, and part of the reason is because I've already got a few faces mixed up. So this could be tempting fate here. I'll see how easy it is to do. The grey initially is not going to, if I just move it across like that, the grey is in the wrong position. If I try bringing it around this way, so I've got blue, green, what was that one? Pink. Blue, green, pink. I do now have that grey where I need it. So I'm actually going to undo those just to double check that everything's looking okay. So this was the first one. These are the ones that have been mucked up by bringing this corner into place. That's still pretty nice. So I don't really need to remember that to undo the setups, because I'll think about which way the corner needs to rotate in order to get that done. The key part here is to remember what I'm doing over here to get the grey sticker to there. So I think what I did was dark blue, green, pink. Let's have a look and see if that's done. That does look good. So that's what I remember. Dark blue, green, pink. I've now got that's going to place. That's going to place. This one won't, but that'll be good for the last thing. So let's now carry out that sequence after all of this. Part 1, now part 2. So that's all done, and obviously if you forget what you've done here, you're in trouble. Let's hope I haven't forgotten what I've done. I think it was dark blue, green, pink that I had to remember first, so I'll undo that. There's the pink there's the green, there's the dark blue. Now, the other one that I had to do was now bring this stuff back. And you can see that I've got to rotate this corner anti-clockwise to get that back into position. Now, before I think that through, do I need it to be rotated? I don't know that I do. I might need it to go clockwise. So what I would do to test this would be to firstly turn it down there and see if this starts looking correct. That does look correct there. So I'm going to assume that is the correct way to go. That's looking good. That's looking good. I'm happy with this now. And I kind of did forget which way there. So just did that to point out that if you try a move and it's looking good, that's the correct way. So what we have now is the situation that I did want at the end to demonstrate you can use a corner twisting for the end. You don't have to get all three correctly oriented with your last three cycle. Now it's longer, but the reason I like it is because it is pretty simple and it's almost the same as what we've just been doing. I'm going to show you that now on a solved puzzle. Well, here I'm going to show you the sequence for rotating two of these three coloured corners. We're going to rotate this one and this one. Here's what we do. It's almost identical to the cycling sequence for three corners here. So I'm going to firstly carry out the exact same cycling sequence. Here we go. All right, you can see those three corners have moved where they should. Now here's the difference. I now grab this front face and bring that corner around to here. So a single turn of the front face. And now I essentially reverse, or not reverse, but do the opposite of what I started with. So instead of starting with an upper face, right face turn, I'm now going to start with an upper face, left face turn of the corner cycling. And then complete it by doing the upper face right turn. Nearly done. You remember that we had a front face turn in there, so I undo that front face turn, and you can see the only two things that have been affected are these two corners. This corner, this has rotated clockwise. This corner here has rotated anti-clockwise. So this is the sort of thing that you can use at the end. If it's just too annoying to set up your final three corners, you can just get them into place and then orient the corners using that sequence. So having seen that, we know that if I've got two corners, say here and here, the top one needs to rotate, or is going to rotate clockwise. So I can see that's going to rotate clockwise if that's my top corner, which means the other one, the bottom one, needs to be here. This is the one that will rotate anti-clockwise. So as a setup, I move it there to begin with. So I've now, if these are my three corners that I'm dealing with, that's going to go correctly, that's going to go correctly. So everything's ready now to carry out this corner twisting sequence. Let's do it for the first and only time on this solve, and just to demonstrate doing it on an actual solve. Here we go. The first thing is the same corner movement that we've been doing. Okay, so that's kind of just about half of it. The difference here is we now need to turn this front face. And what we're doing now is essentially doing the opposite. So now we're starting with the corner piece series, if you like, going anti-clockwise. So I turn the upper and then the left face first. You can see the 3 corners here are set up, ready to go. Now on the home stretch. Now, with this sequence, we need to turn the front face to undo it, and I will do that because you'll remember that we had a setup where we put this corner here before we began. So that's the sequence completed. I now undo my setup move, and you can see that those corners have been correctly oriented. So that's just something that you can use if it's easier. It's obviously longer, but it may be easier in the end to use. So that is what I'm calling the circle doderhombus, where all circle faces are 0 faces. You might be wondering why we never even looked at the little circle corners. We didn't have to, because since it's all 0 faces, they can't really go anywhere. They are connected to edges, and so they solve themselves when we deal with other things. So that is it, the circle doderhombus. I trust that was helpful, and thanks for watching.